So I made a comment earlier about how I needle felt my yarn tails after I finished my piece, as well as sewing it in some cases, or not, because with the technique you don't necessarily need to sew things in. And it occurred to me that this might be something that might be interesting, and someone had mentioned making a tutorial for YouTube. I'm too lazy, so I'm just going to demonstrate real quick here. So to needle felt, of course you need the needles. This is what they look like. Let me take one out. So, okay. To needle felt, you need the needles. This is what they look like. They have barbs and stuff. Oh, here we go. They have barbs that grab onto the fiber right here. So this is a needle felting needle. You need a surface to felt with. You can't just, you can't just do this. It's not going to work, and you can't hold it with your hand because you're going to poke yourself. It really hurts. They hurt more than normal needles because they have these barb things, and like when it pokes into, like, it really hurts. Okay, so you need a surface so you can do that. Or this is just a cheap sponge. They have felting mats, but this is just a cheap sponge. It's a polyester thing. You can get them at the dollar store, at Target, just something cheap to work with. Oh, my needles, I got my needles from eBay. It was like 30 of these in various sizes for like $1. It came from China, so it took a while for me to get it, but I feel like it was worth the wait. Anyway, so surfaces, you can use a cheap sponge or a brush. Now the thing about the brushes, the surfaces in general, is they have to be clean. You can't have any hair or any other kind of like fibers in it, because the hair and the fibers would get stuck in the thing you're felting in, and well, it'll look gross. So, well, not gross, it'll get stuck and you can't take it out, and it just, I don't know, to me I just feel like it doesn't look clean. So for the sake of this tutorial thing, I'm going to use this so you can see clearly. You can sew in your yarn tails, and then leave a tail hanging out to felt, or you can just like have the little, like, you can cut it to, I don't know if you can see this, you can cut it to like a short length or whatever length you feel comfortable with to felt the things in. The reason why this works is because, like, you're basically tangling in it's basically a really bad tangle. You're tangling in the yarn tails, and the more like you wash it and it's agitated or whatever, it just makes the tangles worse, so the yarn tails don't come out. So minion tattoo. When I felt, I pretty much just stab at it until it's gone to the point that I'm happy. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess I'll show. So you can stab straight up and down. I don't know if you can try to, okay. You can stab straight up and down, but the thing about that is it'll get a little bit fuzzy in the back. So what I do is I tend to like stab at it at a diagonal, so that way it catches, the pieces. So you just keep like tangling it in there. So once it starts getting tangled, you snip, and then I'm not sure if you can see it, it's still yarn right there. You snip, and then you pretty much just tangle the rest, get the rest of the little bits of yarn caught in there. Be very careful when you're doing this, because as I mentioned earlier, if you poke yourself, it's very, very painful. Okay. So for the parts, I don't know if you can see it, but the parts that it poked all the way through, it's a little bit fuzzy. You can fix that by just like kind of running the thread like so. Now I also did this part with like color change. So when you have a part with, oh, let me just finish up all the blue bits first and then I'll talk about that. Hold on. You go to where you knotted it off and then you start felting at a diagonal. Don't press too hard because these needles are very finicky and it will break. Just, you know, gently start felting in there, and then when things start getting caught and tangled, you snip off the excess. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, and then hide the rest of the yarn. So you hide all the yarn bits. For parts that you have color changes, for parts that I have color changes, what I do is I pull color. Yep. I pull it taut. Well, I pull it so the stitch is tight, and then I felt it into the same color. I would never take yellow and felt it into blue, because once it's stuck really well in there, it's stuck. Like, it's not going anywhere. So I pretty much just felt it into the same color at a diagonal like this. So that way it's not fuzzy in the back. I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can find something that's fuzzy. Give me 1 minute. If you don't felt it at a diagonal, I don't know if you can see, it's a bit washed out, but it's really fuzzy, like right there. I'll take a picture and insert right here. But another thing about needle felting is it's really hard to find where the yarn tail was, because it pretty much disappears. I'm trying to find a different color. Well, sorry you guys, I can't find it. But if you don't mind, if you have a right side and a wrong side to your piece, it doesn't matter if the back is fuzzy. And oh, another tip, you always felt on the right side of the piece. You know, so this is the right side, this is the front, and this is the back. So you always felt on the front of the piece. Just going to finish these off. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to finish these off. So yeah. So like, again, for parts that have color changes, like, you know, where the yarn finished and you added on another piece, you pretty much just Lexus. You pretty much just you know, felt it into the same color. Pull it taut where you change the color, so that way it stays together. I mean, the stitch is tight, and then felt it in. Once it's tangled, it's not going anywhere. I use this for hats, and I use it in blankets, and in pieces that you have to do a lot of color change, just to, like, you know, like I haven't tried it yet, but I imagine like for those the blankets, the Graphgans, for pieces that require a whole bunch of color change, I mean, it's a lot of work or whatever, but if you needle felt the ends in, it's never going to come apart, and it's not bulky. So you can crochet basically like a thin Graphgan, like you can crochet a Corolla, a Graphgan, and not, you know, worry about sewing it, you know, sewing all the yarn tails in, and it doesn't end up being bulky or whatever. Okay. Sometimes for added security, I will sew in the yarn tail a little bit and then needle felt it, but it's not really necessary, because like I said, basically what you're doing is creating a tangle that's so bad where with the yarn tail that it won't come out. And then when everything is in, I like to go on the back and look for any fuzzy bits and just basically like needle felt that in for added security. My invisible circle is right here, so I like to tangle some of that, and that is pretty much it. It stays in. You can do whatever, and it's not going to come out. Like, the tangle is so bad on the inside of the stitches that it's not going to come out. And I just like it because at the end of the day, the pieces end up looking really clean. Anyway, hopefully that was helpful. And you know, I don't know, I looked online and I didn't find it anywhere, like needle felting, like yarn tails in anywhere. So I don't know, it just it makes me feel kind of like a crazy person. But I mean, I guess at least the pieces stay pretty together, so I can't complain about anything. I found through experimentation that this technique does not work with cotton yarn. It only works with acrylic and wool yarn. Like with cotton yarn, stabbing at it, the barbs from the needle felting needles tend to weaken the parts that you stabbed at, or it will completely tear it up in general. But with acrylic yarn, it makes things get nice and tangled, and it doesn't come out, and it just leaves I don't know, I really like it. Yeah, that being said, that's the end. I hope this was helpful, and I hope it doesn't make me look too crazy for being this extra with my crochet pieces. Have a good one, y'all.